As you can see, I've picked a different project today. I hope you're not too disappointed. I think I mentioned I might still be working on the Prairie Schooler Santa, but I thought maybe since Christmas is now over and New Year's is only a day or two away. Today is Friday, December the 29th. And is that right? Yeah, that's right. It's been hard to keep track of the days this week. I thought maybe you guys might like something a little different today. Still wintry, still festive, but not Santa. Plus, I felt like working on this. This is a piece that I would really like to finish in 2018, if possible. Or at least a few more of the little designs. They're so cute. And, you know, I love stitching houses. I always have. I like stitching architecture. And I think that's one of the reasons I like Ginger Gerald so much. One of the many reasons I like Ginger Gerald so much is that the pieces that he chooses to work on usually are quite large architectural pieces, and I really enjoy watching that. So I pulled this out of the whip pile today. This is Frosty Forest by Cottage Country Needleworks. And I believe I have a picture of the pattern currently that I'm working on. This is Bluebird Cabin. And this is, I think I'm doing these in order. So I have done, here, I'll unroll this so you can see what I've done so far. I love this piece. I love the linen that I'm working on. This is a 30 count. I'm actually doing it on the recommended fabric, which is 32 count pearl gray linen. And that is what I'm stitching it on, the recommended fabric, which is unusual for me. Normally I switch something up, but the color of this fabric was absolutely perfect for the design. So I started this piece up at the top, middle design with the, I'm having trouble loosening this enough. There we go. There we go. So now you can see I started with the raccoon. I can't remember the names of each of these patterns, and I have given away 2 or 3 of them to a lady in upstate New York who I said I would pass my stash to as I stitched them. And her Instagram name, I believe her first name is Amy, and it's AETR. I believe that's her at AETR. She's quite a prolific stitcher on Instagram and quite enjoyable lady. And so I've passed my stash on to her, and unfortunately for her, I did warn her that I'm quite a slow finisher because hopefully she's not been holding her breath waiting for the remaining patterns. Anyways, I started with the raccoon and then worked my way this way. So then the deer, and then the snowman. Cottage was next. Oop, my needle's sticking out there, better be careful. And worked my way down. This one I finished earlier this year. Just so sweet, these little acorns, the rabbit. So yes, this is Country Cottage Needleworks. I usually get that wrong. I don't know why. And I mix up the cottage and the country, but it is Country Cottage Needleworks. Thoroughly enjoyable piece. And this is Bluebird Cabin. I am currently missing the blues needed for the door. And they're very common DMC colors. I think it's $7.99 and $800. I know that I have some $7.99 somewhere in the house. I just have to find which project it's currently housed in. Anyways, so each one of these designs uses 1 or 2 specialty Weeks dye works. I believe they're all Weeks. They're either Weeks or Cottage, or the other one, Colorworks. Oh, you know what I mean. The other overdyed cotton that Little House and Country Cottage tend to use. The one that is used in this design is Molasses by Weeks Dye Work, and the molasses is found in the windows and the roof. The roof is all done with that molasses. Now mine is the molasses that is leftovers from another project, so that's why it's very messy, but you can see the variegated, very, very light variegation of the molasses colorway. I really like this particular color from Weeks. I like the different shades of brown. It's not overly variegated, but just enough that I think the choice to use it for a roof was a really good one. I really quite like it. So, unfortunately, it was one that I already had that I'd used in another project. So, I did not have to rebuy that one. And all of the other called for threads are DMC. Straightforward DMC. I hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday. If you had 1 day off, if you had 2 days off, if you had no days off, I still hope that you managed to find some time to do something fun and relaxing. With New Year's Eve coming up, I know lots of people have been hitting the stores, the grocery stores, and the liquor stores. Here in Ontario, this is different than what you have in the United States. Our alcohol is sold. Actually, the rules are changing, actually. And recently they have started selling wine and beer in the grocery store. But for us, that is very, very new. It used to be that you could only buy your alcohol at what's called the LCBO in Ontario, which is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. And everybody knows what the LCBO is in Ontario. It's where you go to buy your wine. The beer, we go to the beer store. We actually have a store called the beer store. It's very Canadian. And so everybody goes to the LCBO and the grocery store before the holidays. And so it's guaranteed that you're going to have to be a very patient person in these few days before the holiday. Because you know the roads are going to be busy, the stores are going to be busy. It's just an all-around bit of a crazy time. So I did, this morning, we recorded a Fiber Friends podcast this morning, Adrian, Louise, and I, and that was, as usual, so much fun. I love my friends. I'm so lucky to have such great friends. And the three of us had a fantastic time. My family is still here. My mom and dad were here for a couple of nights over Christmas, and they left the 27th. So they were here for 2 nights. And then Steve and Kathy, my sister-in-law and brother, were here from Christmas Day with their daughter Clara, who you've met, my little niece Clara. And, oh, this is wrong. I better fix this. They are still here. So Kathy and Steve are downstairs watching television, and Clara is playing a game or reading a book. I'm not quite sure what she's up to. John has taken Nicholas over to a friend's house for a play date, and I have snuck up here to record this video. And as most of you know, Kathy, my sister-in-law, is also my business partner for Evertote, our bag business. And she, at the moment, is downstairs working on some bags for our shop. We will be having some more bags in the shop very shortly, but I'll talk more about that next week. Anyway, I did have a bag giveaway. If you watched the last little 5-minute pre-Christmas video that I did on the 24th, it was a little Merry Christmas wish. There is a bag giveaway on that little 5-minute video. And if you're interested, pop over. I will be choosing the name for the bag on Sunday. And I will either do a little video. Actually, you know what? I don't think I will. I will pick the name on Sunday. So I'm going to close the draw on Sunday, and then I will announce the winner on the next proper update video that I do next week. I'm hoping to do one. I know Monday's my usual day, but it is New Year's Day, and I will have a house full of people that day. And so it will not be very easy for me to record on Monday. So what I'm going to do next week is break from the regular routine, and I'm going to record a video on Tuesday instead. I don't have to teach next Tuesday night. I am teaching on Wednesday, but I'm not teaching on Tuesday night. And so I will have a little more time that day to record and edit a proper update FlossTube video, which would be really fun because I didn't do one last week. So I'm hoping that I'll have lots to share with you next week. Okay, so I think I can end this thread. The color that I'm using right now is 420. And I think I might switch over and do those window outlines, the white on the window outlines, so that they're done. I'm always curious how people like to stitch white, because I always wonder, should I stitch the white first or should I stitch the white after? Should I stitch it last after I've done the color so that the white remains, the most prominent? I always think that whatever you stitch last sort of sticks out a bit more because it's sort of helping the other threads lay a little bit better. I don't know if I'm making any sense with how I'm explaining this. I think I'm explaining it quite badly. But I like to do the white first and then put the color on the inside. It probably makes no difference at all. You can tell I've got my little baggie here of threads that I've just put back in the little package. I'm sure I have a proper notions tote around here somewhere, but since this is an older work in progress, I haven't tidied everything up yet. So it's almost New Year's Eve. I've been seeing lots of FlossTubers posting videos of their plans for 2018, plans that they have for new starts, what whips they want to work on, how they would like to organize their time and their projects, rotation schedules, things like that. I love listening to people plan their crafting enjoyment. I find that so fascinating. I don't necessarily, follow what other people are going to do, mainly because I struggle too much with, and I'm sure I've said this before, but if I set goals for myself and I fail at them, I really struggle with feeling badly about, not meeting my goal. So I find that not making a goal, but having a general idea of where I'd like to head is usually most helpful for me. But I do love listening to other people make goals and then work towards fulfilling them. And New Year's Eve is always a pretty great time to think about your plans and how you'd like to change things for the better for the coming year. I've had a pretty great year. 2017 was pretty nice. And so I'm hoping for more of the same in 2018. That would be pretty sweet. On last week's Friday video, I talked a little bit about pet peeves and the things that bother me a little bit. And what was quite funny was that I had a comment from, I believe your name was Mary, and I've probably got that wrong, but I did not check before I started recording this. But you'll know who you are when I say which comment it was. She was one of the first few comments after I'd uploaded the video, and she said, so basically your worst nightmare is someone following up behind you, up the stairs, whistling and eating grapes at the same time. And I just laughed because how ridiculous is that? And it's so funny. And I gather this is funny. I think my parents must have watched the video because my father sent me a text and said that he was sorry for scarring me for life. So I thought that was quite funny. Anyway. There's quite a fun group going on over on Facebook, if you're interested. It's a closed group. I know I've mentioned it before, and lots of you here who join in the Friday Off the Grid and all of the weekend Stitch With Me party videos have heard us talk about it before. It's a Facebook group called Friday Off the Grid. We'll probably mention it every weekend, every video, because it's a great community. It's a wonderful group of stitchers. Everybody shares what they're working on the weekend while we stitch together, what progress you made, what finishes you did, what things were going on in your life while you were listening or stitching. One lady even, and I thought this was quite wonderful. She posted 3 pictures. One of them was the project that she was working on. It was a small design that she was working on one Friday episode. And then there was another picture of the same piece, and it was finished. And that was, she said, the very next Friday video. And then there was a third picture of a baby, a little newborn baby. And in between the 2 Friday videos, she'd had a baby. And she said, on one Friday video, I was working on this piece. On the next Friday video, I finished the piece. And in between, I had a little baby. And I just thought that was pretty wonderful. So those are the kinds of things that are happening over on the Facebook group. Other pretty amazing, wonderful things that are happening, and this really is quite astonishing to me. This is not the first time that I have experienced this happening, even in the last month, which is just phenomenal. If those of you who haven't watched a FlossTube episode where I did a house tour of Miss Patty's house, there was a blackwork iris in her basement that she said she would love to stitch again if she could find the pattern. And I think I've mentioned that we had about 6 other stitchers contact us with the name of the pattern and offered to send it to her, and in fact did send it to her. Well, over on the Facebook group, my friend Dawn was looking. Have I told this story already? Now that I'm sitting here and I'm telling this story, I'm wondering if I told this story last week. Oh, you know what? I can't remember. Oh my goodness, my memory's getting bad. Anyways, I'm just going to tell the story again. So if you've heard it, you've heard it. And if not, you're hearing it for the first time. And if you've heard it already, just pretend that you're hearing it for the first time. My friend Dawn from Sarnia was looking for a particular pattern that had pears in it. And literally within an hour, there was another stitcher who knew where the pattern was, had the pattern in a magazine, and put it in an envelope and mailed it to Canada for Dawn. Isn't that amazing? And I mean, this was not a recent pattern. This was a pattern from a while ago. And this stitcher knew right where it was, found it, and then very generously sent it to Dawn. I mean, really. And then on the Facebook group, Dawn was thanking her. I believe the stitcher who found the pear pattern, her name was Laura. And Laura responded. Laura said, "Well, that's what stitchers do." Oh, I have snookered myself here. I've made a little mistake. And this is the one problem when you have the thread looped at the one end. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fix this properly. Okay, so I'm going to have to clip this to fix it. So I clip, then I'm going to have to unpick. There we go. I can't bring myself to just leave it. I'll have to fix that there. Then I am going to be stuck. I won't be able to use that thread quite as far as I would have liked, but oh well. Just have to do. So yeah, Laura said that's what stitchers do. And I just thought, how amazing is that? And she's right. That does seem to be how stitchers are, how stitchers act with each other. You guys are just good people. I don't have the dog in here today, so no snoring soundtrack today. It's so funny. I had no idea she was quite as loud as she was. I mean, I hear her, but you know, when you live with something, it sort of becomes your soundtrack, your daily soundtrack, and you don't really notice it as much. But when I listened to that video when I was editing it, I thought, oh dear. It was really quite audible, and it sounded like me, that I was doing all of this heavy breathing into the phone, which was quite funny. Oh, and I think I'm gonna, maybe I can eke that out. What do you think? 2 more stitches to go. I think I can do it. One. I don't like not having that top secure, as I do tend to play a bit of chicken with the thread chicken with the amount, and I would hate to have to rethread it at this point. Though I could always use the little detailer trick. Okay, so that one's done. There we go. while we're on white, we'll get that other window done too. We have some friends coming in from out of town for New Year's. They're brothers, and they're friends of my husband's and my husband's business partner, Peter. Peter and John. My husband is John, and Peter is his business partner. They went to high school together way back when. And they went to school with these two brothers, David and Andrew, who are coming to visit us this weekend. And what's funny is that John and I met each other when I was in high school, but he was a little bit older than me. So I thought the reason I went down that little trail there was because I was talking about high school friends, and Peter and John were high school friends, and I was friends with a girl named Julie in high school. We were best friends, and John and I introduced Peter to Julie, and wouldn't you know it, that Peter and Julie got married, and now they live here in London as well. And they have 2 kids, and we have 2 kids. And John and Peter are still business partners, and Julie and I are still friends. Isn't that a good story? I think so. Probably the best matchmaking we ever did. So, John went to a private school here in Ontario. And then when he was older, he spent some of his summers in between. I think this was after he went to university. He went to first year university, and then he went back in the summer to the high school where he went and in the summer and was a camp counselor there, because on the grounds of this private school, they held summer camps for all kinds of children. And the summer that I was turning 16, I worked at one of those summer camps. The Niagara Symphony Summer Music School was, they had a summer music camp for children put on at the campus of this school. I did not go to this private school. I went to a public school in a different small town. But in the summer, I was lucky enough to get a summer job being the woodwind apprentice for this summer music camp that was put on by the symphony. And let me tell you, that was the most fun job ever. It was a wonderful, wonderful job. And because, I was surrounded by musicians and children who were there to learn music, and it was a ton of fun. And I did that. I returned to that job every summer for, oh goodness, well until my, university days were almost over. I think 2 or 3 years at least I had that job. Anyways, John was a camp counselor at a different camp that was on the same campus. And he was helping to run the tennis computer camp. And that's how we met. I was a counselor at the music camp, and he was a counselor at the tennis computer camp. Now, he was a fair bit older than me when we met. He was 20, turning 21, and I was 15, turning 16. But you have to remember, I guess you don't have to remember, you probably don't know this, but when I was a teenager, I looked a lot older than I was. I always did. I always looked a lot older than I was. And the very first time that he asked me out on a date, he asked me out to a bar. And in Ontario, you have to be 19 years old to drink. And I was not even close to 19 years old. And I didn't want to tell him that I wasn't 19 years old yet because I was, a little embarrassed that this older boy was asking me out on a date. And, I didn't want to tell him that I wasn't old enough to go to a bar for a drink. So I just said no. I said no, and I sort of, embarrassedly walked away, and it was a little awkward. But anyways, fortunately, a week later, he tried again, and he asked me out on a date to go out for dinner. And I said yes, because the thing about John, and I didn't tell you this part yet, but when he was 20, turning 21, he looked a little younger than his age. So I didn't know that he was almost 21. He didn't look almost 21. He looked a little younger. So I said yes, because it was to a restaurant, and I thought, okay, well, I can go out to dinner. So we went out on our date. We went to the restaurant, and it was at the restaurant where we discovered, when we started talking, he discovered how young I was, and I discovered how old he was. And we sort of, looked at each other in sort of disbelief and said, well, I guess that's, that's a little bit strange, isn't it? And, we sort of had decided that age distance was a bit too much, but, we were already there at the restaurant. We might as well eat the dinner. We might as well have finish the dinner that we were there together. And, we were talking and talking and talking, and we just had a pretty great time. And there you go. It has now been, well, let's see, too many more years to count. Last October, we celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary. So I'd say, even though my parents were not a big fan of the age gap, and to say that maybe I fudged telling them exactly how old he was at the time. I might have done that, maybe. But I really liked him, you see, and I knew he was a really good guy. So they really didn't know at the beginning how old he was. And I don't recommend that teenagers do that to their parents, but it worked out in the end. So that's how we met. And then it was the next summer that we introduced Peter and Julie to each other. So there you go. Probably more than you ever wanted to know. I'll never forget, too, this restaurant that we went to on our first date. It was I think it was a rib, like spare ribs, things like that, a rib restaurant. And he ordered, or it was like a barbecue place, and he ordered ribs. And they brought him a bib, and like one of those plastic bibs. And he wore it, and he was such a good sport about it that I thought, okay, this guy's got a bit of a sense of humor. I think I like that. So I thought that was quite good. Okay, let's thread up one more white. Get the middle of that last window done. I have been the recipient of some overwhelmingly generous gifts sent to me in the mail over the last few weeks. Completely unexpected acts of kindness. And I owe some thank yous to people. I certainly never expect or ask for people to send things to me, and the fact that anyone has is completely overwhelming. And I would like to properly thank a few people, and so I think I will do that in the next video. I have a few things to share and to show that some people have sent to me in the mail. And what a treat to open your mailbox and find something addressed to you in there. Frankly, that isn't the MasterCard bill. I highly recommend surprising a friend. If you have a stitching friend who lives even in the same city, popping a little treat in the mail for them to receive in their mailbox. It really makes their day. Let's see. There's a dog outside going a bit crazy. I think it's not the neighbor's dog. I think it's a few doors down. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but not sure what's going on. Something in the neighborhood. Okay, so I think we're ready to put in that little bit of molasses in the window well. Now, whenever I use variegated threads, I always use 2 strands. I don't double the thread over. And just in case you haven't used a variegated thread before and you're using 2 at the time, I always separate the threads and put them back together again, so that you're getting rid of the so that they're going to lay as smoothly as possible. And at this point, I've left my thread heaven downstairs. In fact, one of the little treats that was sent that I just opened up today was a little tin of beeswax from a lady named Polly. And Polly has sent me a beautiful Christmas card and a little tin of beeswax substance, and I haven't had a chance to properly open and look at it and inspect it, but I'd like to do that before the next video when I share about the random acts of kindness with you guys, because I'd like to give it a little, I'd like to try it out because it looks really interesting. It looks like a Thread Heaven alternative that that I quite like the look of, and the tin is really cute too. So I don't have any here with me, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this. But a little thread conditioner on this week's thread is always, I mean always, I've only just started using it in the last month, so I say always like I'm some big expert, which is quite hilarious. But I think the week's thread in particular could use a little bit of that extra conditioning, just like hair. My hair is very dry and always needs a lot of conditioner. I cannot use those 2-in-1 products that used to be all the rage. I can't use those at all. I have to always use a separate, quite thick conditioner in addition to shampoo. Otherwise, my hair would be rather hopeless. Oh, that looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, I like that quite a lot. Oh, I cannot tell you, I am just so enjoying these Fridays. It has become a really, really nice sort of introduction to my weekend. And I was not able to visit with a lot of the other Stitch With Me videos last weekend, only because we were so busy getting ready for family. But I have them all ready to go for this weekend when, the brothers that are coming are really, John and Peter's friends. So I am fully expecting that there's going to be a little bit of time in there where the boys might go off and do something, the 4 of them, and perhaps I'll be able to sneak away for a little bit and find some time to catch up on a few of the videos that I missed last weekend, and also hopefully catch up on some of the newer ones this weekend. There are some new friends recording and putting out Stitch With Me videos all the time, and a lot of the people posting these new videos are posting about them in the Friday Off the Grid group. So it's a really great way to find new FlossTube videos and new Stitch Along videos if these are the type of video that you prefer. Because sometimes all we really want is a friend to stitch with. Now, I mentioned that my sister-in-law is downstairs. What I haven't told you yet is that she started Shades of Blue a few nights ago. She was watching me stitch it in the summer, actually before the summer, the beginning of the summer, and she said, "Oh, I really love that piece. I need to get that piece. You need to, we need to figure out how to get me started on that piece." And so I bought her the kit, not the kit. I bought her the pattern and the silk dinky dye threads for her birthday. And she started it a couple nights ago. And she is doing it on 28 count even weave, 1 thread over 1 It is tiny, tiny, teeny tiny. I'm going to take a picture of it when I go downstairs. I'm going to take a picture of it, and when I edit this video, I will put the picture of what she has stitched so far. I'll insert a picture at the very end of this video so that you can see. It is tiny and it is perfect. It is beautiful. She has never done anything quite so small, and she seems to be enjoying it quite a lot. But it's going to be about 9 inches square when it's done, and it's beautiful. She's also using a lap frame for the first time. I've lent her one of mine, and I know my daughter has a spare one, so I just have to find a couple of the side pieces for it, and then if I can find those, I'm going to send her home with that frame. Sarah doesn't use hers. Sarah hasn't stitched in years. She did it briefly when she was, I don't know, 10 to 12, and then she hasn't done it for a few years. She was very interested in Tamari for a while. That went quite well, but cross stitching for her was never a passion. But you know, we never know what we're going to come back to as adults, and she certainly knows how to do it. So maybe one day she'll stitch with her mom again. But until then, I think I can loan Kathy Sarah's lap stand. So we'll see if I can find the parts. Oh my goodness, I love this. This looks so sweet. Isn't it funny? This has been sitting downstairs since, I'm going to say, at least February. I don't think I've done, well, no, February. I think I did some during Stitch Mania. I did something a little differently in Stitch Mania. I worked on a different whip each day. Instead of starting new things, I worked on a different old whip every day, but I certainly didn't last the whole month. I think I lasted half the month. And I think I put in some stitches into this during that. So I haven't touched this since May, which is a long time. But no guilt, no regrets. It was waiting for me. And it's like it's brand new again. So I'm going to finish up this one window, and then I'm going to say goodbye to you because I need to go down and visit with my family again. And then edit this video. I can do that while I'm visiting with them. I'll edit this quickly and pop it up on YouTube, and then I'll keep an eye on Facebook and Instagram into this evening and over the weekend. So I do hope that you'll post your progress pictures and use the hashtag Off the Grid Friday Party on Instagram, which will add you to the collection of photos that are growing over there. And you guys are working on some amazing projects. I love looking at all of the different projects. No greater way to be enabled than Instagram. That is the truth. I think I can eke out a few more stitches. That's when I'm using this, when I use specialty threads, I especially like to use up every last little bit. Aren't the birds sweet in this one? They were cute, and then I added the legs, and then I just fell in love with them. Those two little backstitched legs make all the difference in the bird. It's so funny how such a small detail can add so much character. Now, how many more can I get? Maybe a couple more. Always tempting fate, just a little bit when you get to the end here, because I would really rather not rethread it. And having to bother with the star detailer is sometimes more annoying when you just want to get on and stitch. So I mentioned we recorded the Fiber Friends podcast this morning. And I know that I've mentioned here before that I've been working on a shawl as part of a little contest competition with my friend Louise. We're trying to see who can finish their shawl first. And what's really quite hilarious is that neither of us has finished yet. But I have made quite a lot of progress on it. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks it'll be done. We'll see. Everything gets done in its own timeline, which was the conversation I was just having with Letitia, the crafty curator, who's been working on this gorgeously amazing piece called The Embrace. And she was hoping to have it finished by January 3rd. And she just said that she didn't think that she was going to make that deadline. And I said, it will be done in its own time. And she agreed, and she said exactly when it was supposed to be done, it'll be done. So there we go. I think that's it. I only have 4 more to do there, but I've got the whole roof to do still in the molasses. So I'll certainly be using that thread a bit more. And there you have it. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really nice, frankly, to just sit here and stitch for an hour and have a chat. I hope you have an amazingly happy new year, and I wish you nothing but the best for what is to come in 2018. And I will see you early next week with a regular floss tube video, and let's bring in 2018 with all of our crafting goals in mind. Happy stitching, everybody. See you soon.